Jake Miller had worked as a mechanic in a small Ohio town for nearly 10 years. His life was simple: long hours, greasy hands, and barely enough pay to cover rent. Still, he took pride in fixing anything with wheels. People trusted him because he never cut corners, even when no one was watching. Late one stormy night, just as Jake was closing the garage, an old ambulance sputtered to a stop outside. The driver jumped out in panic, shouting that the patient inside was fading fast. The nearest hospital was miles away, and the engine wouldn't start again. Jake hesitated for only a second. His boss had warned him many times: no after-hours work, no exceptions, especially not emergency vehicles without contracts. But when Jake looked inside the ambulance and saw an unconscious man connected to monitors, he made his decision without speaking. He worked fast, ignoring the rain soaking his clothes. His hands moved on instinct: fuel line, starter, wiring. 15 tense minutes later, the engine roared back to life. The driver thanked him and sped away, sirens cutting through the night as Jake stood there breathing hard. The next morning, Jake's boss was furious. Parts were missing, rules were broken, and excuses didn't matter. Despite Jake's explanation, he was fired on the spot. As Jake packed his tools, he felt uneasy, but not regretful. Somewhere out there, an ambulance had made it on time, and that was enough for him. 2 days after losing his job, Jake sat in his small apartment scanning classifieds, wondering how fast his savings would disappear. A sudden knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. When he opened it, 3 men in dark suits stood silently in the hallway, their serious expressions making his heart race. They introduced themselves as representatives of Richard Hale, a powerful CEO who had been rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Jake listened in confusion as they explained the truth. The man in the ambulance that night was Richard himself, returning from a private event when his heart failed without warning. Doctors confirmed that minutes had mattered. If the ambulance had been delayed any longer, Richard would not have survived. The men told Jake that Richard personally asked to meet the mechanic who saved his life. Still stunned, Jake agreed and was driven to a private medical facility guarded by security. Inside, Richard thanked Jake with visible emotion. He said wealth meant nothing when facing death, and a stranger's courage had given him another chance. Instead of offering just money, Richard offered Jake purpose, a leadership role overseeing emergency vehicle maintenance across his companies. Within weeks, Jake's life transformed. The same town that watched him get fired now read headlines about his success. Jake never bragged. He simply believed that doing the right thing, even when it costs everything, eventually gives something far greater back.